Before we kick off, registrations are open for our 24-hour leadership challenge on December 13 and 14. This is no retreat. It's a test of endurance, resilience, and mindset. You'll move, learn, lead, and push beyond your limits. All the details are in the show notes or at highpl.com.au. Let's get into the episode. Welcome to the Leader More podcast. Our motive is to pass on what we've found helpful over the years through leading teams, running operations, and dealing with life's challenges. We hope you enjoy. Chris Brennan, welcome, mate. Good to have you.
Thanks for having me, mate.
In
the man cave.
Good to have an alpha male in the man cave, mate, for one slot. Look out.
To use that term loosely.
So, mate, 15 years Defence Force, just under, 10 years of that in the SASR. Pleasure to get some of your time and sort of pick your brain about stuff and hear about your story. So, mate, defence, is always something you wanted to do?
Yeah, raised in Queensland, mate. Dad was an Army reservist, still is. Yeah. Around that sort of environment growing up was also always something I was keen to do. I like the concept of being in teams and those sorts of things. Definitely something I wanted to do. Going through school, started the application process for defence. A number of reasons, but didn't sort of go down that path straight away. Decided to start a plumbing apprenticeship.
Because that's a bit more exciting,
yeah,
right?
That's right. Yeah. Working below your knees each day in dirt.
Yeah.
Did that for a little bit. Decided I wanted to join the Army again.
Yeah.
That the itch returned. Looked to enlist back in 2008. Started that process again. Initially, I wanted to join the Army as a plumber and finish off my trade. Would have had to wait a while. I did another trade in the communication space as a communications technician, and that was really cool. Joined the Army as a communications technician.
So, what does that entail? Like, what do you do?
Oh, that was very much cabling. Structured cabling. Basically, it was like playing Telstra for the Army. With the addition of the long-range satellite bearers and maintain strategic comms, deployed or wherever you go. So that was it was a cool job. Very much around it was very hands-on as well, which I liked. And again, still working in a team of tradies was good. Training was done in Melbourne. Moved to Brisbane after that, and then
you grew up in Queensland,
in Queensland,
then moved down to Melbourne. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, moved to Melbourne to do my training when I joined. Yeah. Back to Brizzy within the Army, and then to Perth.
Yeah.
Eventually, so that was the pathway in.
Bit of a journey.
Yeah.
And your brother's involved in defence as well?
No, family. Some of my siblings were.
Yeah.
One of which is still serving.
Yeah.
Brother's out now as well.
Yeah.
He's working in a different capacity, but so that was cool. I was he went to a similar trade or the same trade I did. We were down doing our training together.
Oh, that's cool.
At the same time, which was good.
Brothers running amok, I imagine.
Yeah, that's good. And then, our careers, diverged a bit, but came back together. And then, good relationship with my brother. It was good.
Yeah.
He was probably the better tradesman out of the two of us. So
if that's a good thing,
that's
right? Yeah. So, signalling wise, that's all about the communications, right? Yeah. They're pretty pivotal. Yeah. What are the different sort of areas? Was there a particular one that you sort of focused in on or specialised on?
Yeah, so I was a technician, so it was very much around that. The cabling piece, long-range bearers. Some other trades now that work more around the IT software space, computer-based, and a lot of routing and Another one very radio-specific, which was what I ended up sort of going into eventually. I sort of jumped across unofficially in a different trade when I came to Perth, and another one where they sort of do intelligence side of signals as well. So I came mainly the tech path. Came to Perth and embedded into a troop in the SAS as a comms specialist in the troop.
Yeah, okay.
So that was I sort of came off the tools, as in physically off the tools. I was no longer running hand tools anymore for a job. It was more so getting onto being a manager of comms and radios for a troop of SAS dudes.
Yeah, supporting them.
And then there was a tactical function that too as well, where you sat in the reporting scheme of things too. Not to speak too much to that, but there was a tactical element to that as well, which I hadn't necessarily been exposed to as a technician.
Yeah.
Which was
eye-opening,
man. Yeah. Unsettling as well.
Really?
So I hadn't necessarily done anything too tactical in my career up until the point I came to Perth and embedded in a troop like of SAS dudes. So it was like, yeah, man, it was sink or swim sort of stuff, like learning a lot really quickly, which was fun. But
pretty confronting, like going into that environment. Like,
yeah, it was, man.
As a technician.
Yeah. And you'd think it would be confronting and a little bit. It was, probably from a performance perspective, because that was the expectation, was that you're really good at your job.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to be a tactical professional, So for me, I put a lot of, I suppose, weight on wanting to be really good at my job, and then there was also like a lot of the pressure you put on yourself was probably internal as well. When you get there,
you just don't want to mess up.
Right.
You don't want to look bad.
The guys are welcoming, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you turn up, like, what's that like? Are they
good, man? Yeah. The guy, I was welcomed somewhat with open arms when I came in as a comms guy. And again, man, just the expectation was that, like, hey, man, you're just here to be really good at this job to enable us in this function. Don't think too far past your job into the other functions that exist within the troop. Just be really good at this one thing.
They just broke it down for you, simplified it. Yeah,
100%, man. And
just put you at ease. Yeah,
that's right. They also sort of put a lot of time into me to develop me tactically, which was great. And first exposure to some really good culture, I think, within that the troop space. Within those combat elements.
What did that look like?
Oh man, it was like, so that the troop I went into at the time, they just come back from a deployment the year before. Quite a significant deployment. They had lost one of their team commanders, Blaine Diddams. They sort of really got together after that, and when I came in at that point, it was at that point with a real close-knit group of dudes, just gone through a bit of trauma together, and we're taking some momentum that they had as a deployed unit back into other functions, and it was wicked to see how like close they were, how well they looked after each other, both inside and outside of work. And then just how sort of mission focused they were, but also were well-rounded sort of guys. So it was good, man, like really eye-opening to see that. My first exposure to that really high-performing elite culture.
And would you say that that's probably like a bit different to what you thought it would be? Like as in...
Exceeded expectations, man.
Yeah.
You put the guys on a pedestal from when you're not on the, it's a funny thing, man, like there's a mystique that surrounds guys in the SAS.
You bet.
And it's cool, how we have that saying, keep the mystique alive. But,
really?
For the most part, you think they're these superhuman dudes. And at the end of the day, they're just normal guys that are really, really good at the basics of soldiering and apply them well. So, coming into that environment, you're like, oh man, like these are just normal dudes that are just really, really good at a specific skill set or multiple skill sets. And it was, like, oh, maybe that's something I could potentially do as well.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Yeah. Broke down a lot of those barriers and the, I suppose, stereotypes.
So I can imagine too, when you're hearing what's going on and then seeing that sort of stuff, it's like a bit of a no-brainer that, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, man.
Yeah, get me in.
Yeah. And I suppose I went into that role initially not, I didn't have the intention of doing the selection course to become like an SAS operator, but my mind's, as soon as I went into that environment, I was like, man, this is wicked. This is like, this is what I've been seeking. And it was probably only 4 months in when I was like, starting to do my application, expression of interest, doing selection the following year.
In that process, like, do you have to wait a certain amount of time?
Yeah, at the time I was supposed to. There was meant to be, if you came in as like a support guy, especially in the trade that I was in within the signals, you were meant to do 2 years in trade before they would sort of allow you to do selection. But I had good hierarchy, man, within the signal squadron. They were really cool.
What do you reckon they allowed that though? Like, what is that? They saw something in you? Or
I'm not sure, mate. I'd like to think so. But I think they were just, it was that flexibility and leadership too, not just being, a cookie cutter approach. It wasn't, it wasn't a policy. It was just a guide, like, oh, this is what we sort of ask of you before you go and do selection. And, they made the exception for us. And I was really grateful for that. So I did selection 2014.
Tough?
Yeah, man. Yeah, toughest thing I've done.
Yeah, really?
Wicked. And I mean, oh man, there's so much stuff out there on the selection course now. But from an activities perspective, it hasn't changed. Some of the recruiting pathways and different employment categorizations now have changed. But for the most part, the course looks the same. Yeah, man, real hard.
I wouldn't imagine though, even if you know what's going on, that would make it necessarily too much easier. But then
you still got to do it.
Yeah, and you still got people watching because even if you complete it, it's not a given, right?
That's right, man. Yeah. So I suppose, and I'll probably talk about this a little bit later on from being involved in selecting people and training people, but very much attribute based, personal attribute based, as opposed to just how good you are at your soldering skills. So, I mean, you still have to rock up and do it. And massive emphasis on trainability, how you assimilate information, how you work well in a team. I mean, the concept being, you sort of try and bring a person back to their basic personality, their bare personality, and you do that through sleep deprivation and food deprivation and arduous tasks. And you get to see someone's personality when they're like that. You get to see what they're like under pressure, show their true colours. And yeah, man, wicked course. 3 weeks long, sort of finished that and then started the training cycle to go into the regiment.
So there's some like benchmark tests prior to that, right? And you put in your expression of interest from what I believe, and then you do your 3-week selection course, and then a reinforcement cycle. Is like,
it's called,
12 months, 18 months? 18 months, yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose, the selection course, like you just mentioned before, previous question, like finishing selection doesn't give you access onto the reinforcement cycle. You still have to be selected. So, I think we finished selection with 40-odd guys.
Okay.
26 of us got selected, and then some of those guys were told, hey man, come back next year. Some did, some passed the next year. There were guys on my selection course that had come back for a second, third, fourth attempt, got picked up.
Geez, that's commitment, isn't it? That's
man.
good.
Yeah, I wanted to be the whole one and done. I was like, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to go around the weekend, man.
Yeah.
So, and then started the training cycle, and they call it reinforcement cycle, being that you go into the A squadron, an SA squadron as a reinforcement to sort of bolster capability. So, started that training cycle, 18 months long. A massive suite of courses.
So you just learn, and they're just like downloading a heap of stuff into you.
Man. And very relevant, very contemporary lessons as well that come back from, like Afghanistan was still in full effect at the time. Guys were sort of back from those rotations. So the people that were in that leadership training capacity were all as contemporary as you could be, man.
Been there, done it.
Yeah, man. A large emphasis on that, converting lived experiences and tacit experiences into like a deliverable lesson. So that was a really cool exposure to, I suppose, the leadership and the training side as well. Initially, as a trainee, just seeing how professional it was and how different it was, I suppose, to other methods that existed within the army.
In what way, mate? Like, what was
adult learning would be the first thing.
Okay. What do you mean?
Just the way they set the conditions for us to learn. It was like a strong emphasis on the why, which was highly relevant because it was being enacted overseas at the time. And I'm talking more around like that lethality, survivability, insertion, sort of, special forces roping, medical, comms, patrol skills in the bush, hostage rescue kind of courses. There's all, breaching, demolitions, all this sort of stuff that you do. But it all related back to something that was relevant to the time. Guys had just done it operationally. So compared to some of the other experiences in the army where it wasn't so adult, it was more so aimed at like pedagogyism, like teaching children.
Like classroom style.
Yeah, rote learning.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas the regiment took a very adult learning environment, catered to different learning styles as well, I suppose. It was the old, see one, do one, teach one piece as well. That was the continuum. You have a chance to do something as a Rio. Early on in your career, you got the chance to go back and either lead it or teach it, and that sort of rounded you out as that professional. So yeah, that was cool, man. That would be the first thing jumps out, would be that how they established the conditions for adult learning. And it wasn't like just do it because we told you to. It was more like, hey, this is why you learn it, and this is how it's been employed. And it just reinforced the why.
Yeah. And I suppose having people who have been there, done that, just come back, and probably some legends.
100% they were, man. And you're like, wow, that's a dude I've been put on a pedestal and now he's teaching me. That was cool. And a couple of those guys in particular ended up, went into their team. So it was cool. These people come back from squadrons to instruct you. You then go and finish your training cycle and then go to one of their teams. And that was always in the back of your mind, like you're almost running the red pen over them as well. Like, oh, what's he like as a leader? Do I want to work for that guy? What qualities do I like about him? What don't I like about him? So I suppose, talking about, high performance leaders, I think, and when my leadership journey would have started, would have been there, man. Like being exposed to those people.
That stuff, yeah.
So, one guy in particular, he was really, he was a standout instructor, really quality leader as well. I ended up going to his team. He was my first 2IC. In the team I went to in 2 Squadron. Like the relevancy behind his lessons were, some of the stories he was telling, mate, were less than 6 months old and very, very deliberately designed to have a training outcome attached to that. And it was cool. It was good to see. Man.
Yeah, I don't know. Like with not having any experience in that sort of arena by any means, but I don't know. My mind goes to, and obviously pretty naively goes to, hey, this is what we do for these reasons, just fucking do it. You know, that would be how I would feel. But like to have, you know, some living legends as such, you know, people that you put up on a pedestal and so forth, to come back and actually explain the reasons why in an adult way, to be able to then, you know, you can learn and you can ask questions and you can pick their brain. Like, man, that's...
Yeah. And I think that had shifted, man. Like that mentality had shifted, and the whole do it this way because I said so did exist. But then I think some key personalities were like, that's not working, you know, and they'd expanded their, you know, exposure to training environments outside the regiment, outside the army, saw how other organisations were training people to, you know, more effectively. So they're like, oh, well, we need to adapt some of these methodologies as well. And over a period of time, you know, consciously and deliberately change that approach to training, being adult, with the, you know, with the mindset that like we train these people to come to our teams. The expectation was that we need to train them to a standard so that they're not a liability to us when they come. We need to give them the reasons why they're doing certain things so that when they do get into our team, they're front loaded and ready to perform, not just like do this because I said so. So,
and they're people too, not robots. Right. You know, it's just not like I send a command to them and off they go.
Right. And you're dealing with guys that are intrinsically motivated, forward leaning. They've applied to be there. They've gone through a selection process. They've been assessed for their trainability, how they assimilate information, a number of other sort of personal attributes. So it's like you're not dealing with idiots. You're dealing with like highly motivated, smart people, elite people. So
the training too, like not just what you do when you're somewhere, right, doing whatever, but like getting there and getting out, like is probably something that you sort of forget about. But like that's probably the biggest part of training, right? It's like, you know, getting somewhere and like whether that's air, water, you know, vehicles, so forth, right? Like there's a chunk of training involved with that sort of stuff, right?
Man. So the insertion skill that I opted for was free fall. So I went into a military free fall.
Jesus.
Oh, it's just fun, man.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I'm terrible with heights.
Some other stuff, you know, like water. I love water, but I wanted to keep it that way. Didn't want the military to take the fun out of it. Wife did was skydiving. So man, I chose to go down the free fall path, military free fall.
So you get that option.
Specialist. Somewhat, yeah.
Okay.
You can choose that. At the end of the day, the allocation of specialty skill and insertion skill was up to the squadron leadership as to what they needed in their squadrons.
Yes.
You know, I elected to be a medic and a free faller. Some guys opted to be a comms guy and a water operator, as sorts of combinations. Yeah. And this is all open source sort of stuff I'm talking about. There's no secrets. But so that's it, man. I chose to be a medic free faller. I already had a comms background, so the medic one was like, well, no, man, you will do that because you've already got this skill set, which was wicked anyway. Got to use it eventually. And wanted free fall. Man. So that was it.
Yeah. What's the medic stuff, right? What's that like? Like, is that just a first aid on steroids? Like, what are you?
Somewhat.
What's the training involved?
Man, I can't remember how long that course was. The SAS has a qualification called Patrol Advanced First Aider, and it's similar to another trade that exists in the combat first aider. There's a little bit more emphasis around like prolonged field care, some additional training on like SA drugs, and some other interventions you can do. Okay. So heavily focused on, they call them the three major causes of death on the battlefield, being tension pneumothorax, airway obstruction, and catastrophic bleeding. So there's a lot of emphasis around those sorts of three pillars, I suppose. And then how to be the immediate sort of first arriving attending medic, but then also how to work with that we had like a paramedic qualified person in the team as well, combat paramedic. Yep. And how to support them as well.
So your first responders as such.
Yeah, mate. So for example, like we were embedded in the teams and they were one step removed.
Yeah.
If an incident occurred, we would be the first there to sort of do the initial intervention, and then hopefully they could get to us within a timely manner. If not, the expectation was that we were able to sustain life until they arrived to assist. And that occurred many times, man. So,
really?
Yeah, not me personally, but just throughout previous deployments, and the guys that had, particularly in Afghan, like there was a heavy reliance on the PAFers and the guys within the teams to provide those immediate life-saving interventions to guys before backloading to like a paramedic qualified person.
So moving in 18 months, from a selection point of view, you can still get cut then, can't you? Like within that 18 months.
Yeah, so there's specific courses are gates that you have to pass, and I won't go into what they are.
No.
I end up working on in the training space and being involved in that one of those particular courses later on in my career. But yeah, man, there's certain gates you have to pass. So I mean, within only 2 weeks of starting that cycle, probably 3 weeks of starting that training cycle, we'd already had 2 guys removed from the training cycle.
Really? Yeah.
And then there's a couple more that failed a specific course that got a chance to do it again later on the next year. So yeah, there's probably, I can't remember, probably like 2 or 3 main gates that are there, but yeah, man.
That pressure to perform and improve always there, right?
Injury as well, that's another one. You know, a lot of guys get injured through that training cycle because it's, you know, it's physically demanding. Like it's high risk sort of stuff. You're asking a lot of your bodies, and guys get injured, get to come back again the next year.
I imagine just on like that selection course as well. You know, like
yeah.
Bit going on. How did you go throughout that?
Yeah, it felt like I went on as a 24-year-old and I came off as a 50-year-old.
You saw bones.
Yeah. No, I think that's the average age too. You know, dudes mid-20s do that sort of selection course. It's a good point. You're a little bit more professionally mature, physically rounded. So,
Was it harder though? Like, you know, being in a situation where you've been exposed, you probably knew the guys a little bit and stuff, and then you were like doing it?
Yeah, somewhat, man. I think I reflect on this differently. Like there was a lot of 1%ers that the guys spoke about while I was in the troop that definitely helped me. And I didn't understand how beneficial or the weight of those, how beneficial they were until after I finished selection, talking to guys I was on the reinforcement cycle with that had either withdrawn previously and come back or struggle with those things that, you know, were parked away in my mind as being 1%ers and just little things to help me out. Knowing having worked with the guys beforehand didn't help me at all. It was, it was good to see, like, you know, you're out there on the selection course. It was kind of like the mindset of being like, oh, there's a friendly face, but they weren't so friendly.
So you are getting yelled out a bit and stuff like that?
Oh, no, man. No, that's probably that's a common misconception. I think.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's very much silent running. You know, like you won't get told feedback. You won't get told if you're doing well or poorly.
Yeah.
So more often than not, that's going to let that doubt creep into someone's mind. They get their own voices start, you know, telling them to pull off. Or if someone's getting told they're doing something well, they'll feed off that. So having you know, gone back and or directing staff on a few selections now, it's very there's a science and an art to it, man. And I think the science piece of it is that. Man, it feels cringy talking about the selection piece as well because you don't want to give too much away, you know.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's a lot of information out there now about it. But there'll be particular activities that you do get in their face for, but it's very measured and it's deliberate, man. Yeah. So you'll be heavily briefed on, hey, this is the intentions behind this. Stay in your lane. So you don't just have a license to go and screen at people. It's, Even the punishments are measured, you know, so everyone's doing the same sort of stuff, you know. Yeah. So you're not having one dude that's getting punished for 400 push-ups and as opposed to this person over here, he's got none.
So getting through that and having like that silence as such, like how was that for you?
I was expecting it, man.
Yeah.
It was all good.
You're good?
Yeah. I loved it, man. Like there were certain activities where you're actually by yourself for a period of time, like a week. It's just you, your pack, and the voices in your head. and man, it was good because no one was, you know, there was no one there looking at you, whether they're yelling at you or not talking to you. There was just no one there with their eye on you. Oh, there were, but you didn't know where they were. They hide in the bushes and whatnot. That was good. I enjoyed that. Some people find that hard, being on their own, being away from family. Guys have got kids or families, and that's where that negativity and that doubt starts to really land itself when guys are by themselves, just with those voices, I suppose, being like, oh, come on, man, you should be at home. What are you doing out here? You know,
listen to all the training that you've done, like triathlete.
Yeah,
that would probably, you know,
man,
a lot of hours there by yourself, you know, swimming and bike riding and running.
I probably didn't speak to that. I think through the back end of high school, I was racing within a junior elite capacity within triathlon, which was cool. You know, like that was my first exposure to structure, discipline, performance concepts, I'd say. First good exposure to, I wouldn't say first good exposure. I'd probably say my first exposure to a good leader was my old man, my dad, and my mum. But probably from a sporting coaching perspective was definitely my first triathlon coach, Brian Harrington. Yeah. He was cool in the fact that, you know, it was very much show what it meant to have a goal, achieve a goal, be disciplined in your approach to that from a young age. So I think that was definitely something that carried through into selection. Probably not something that I accessed consciously. It was parked away subconsciously. I recall, you know, thinking back now, reflecting on that sort of piece, and working with sporting teams now as well, or having guys that have come from different sporting backgrounds professionally. You know, professional rugby. I did my reinforcement cycle. There was a guy that had played professional rugby league. Joined the army in a different capacity and then came across to the SAS. So it's there's guys from all different walks of life. I suppose the common point was that at some point, a lot of them had been in either a sporting team with the elite sporting team, pro amateur, junior elite sort of stuff. So a lot of guys have been around that environment before, and the crossover are fundamental. So
Well, wired that way too, right? Like, is that whatever it is psychologically? It's not my cup of tea.
That's
but
not our bag, mate.
No, that's right. We just do stuff. But it's like that. Hey, I thrive on the fact of setting goals and achieving goals, and I like to continually improve. That's right. For some people, they couldn't think of anything worse. It's like, what are you doing? That takes time. It takes effort. But obviously, you thrived in that situation, right? Yeah.
I think, man, I reflect on this as well now. When I got into the SAS, one of the tenets within the regiment's ethos was relentless pursuit of excellence, and it's. I think some people get scared by the words relentless because it's like, oh, that's a little bit too out of my reach. It's like that means I have to do it 24/7. Be active, relentless, and excellence. Guys get deterred by that. I talk about now like the relentless pursuit of greater value in a team. Both what your individual value is to that team, and then also trying to enable the capability enhancement or drive that the team. So being exposed to that early on, like I wasn't aware of how exposed I was until doing selection and just seeing how you manage a little bit more of those external stresses and physical demands as well. Because from having come through that triathlon piece younger, you were exposed to that like pursuit of excellence, competition.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and probably even too, mate, your upbringing with mum and dad. I imagine too, like they probably set some pretty clear sort of goals and boundaries of what you needed to do. Yeah.
I like to give my siblings a bit of crap because I like to say that I set all the boundaries. I was the oldest man, so I was like, I had it hardest.
You took it all. Yeah.
My brother and I give our sisters a bit of shit because they're the youngest. And like when I left home, man, I got no car, I got no money. My sister's got a car, a uni degree, and money, and a rental house. Shit. So it's like you got me to thank for that. I set the boundaries.
Paved the way.
But no, you're right, man. I was exposed to that early on. And they very much encouraged that sort of approach that Harrow, my coach, took. Was that what it meant to be dedicated to something, have structure. I didn't go through a private school either. Like I think having being friends with people that come from high performing teams and exposed to that sort of element in sporting excellence schools, I think that sort of stuff was that's instilled into them at that point. Where I'd never had that. It was more so outside of extracurricular. Here's my structure. Here's my training program for the week. Here's the goal. Here's the progression. Here's how we're getting there, and then achieving it, and then doing the whole like reset, refocus. What's now? What's important now? What's important next? Phase. So.
Any thoughts of going further from a triathlete?
I was mainly. There was probably a few factors, man. Maybe talent. Top end speed.
Yeah.
No, man. I just think like, I think that was it, man. Like I just didn't have the same talent as a lot of the other guys, and that's an honest reflection. I came to swimming late. A lot of the guys that I was competing with were probably swimming from the before they could doing nippers and competitive swimming at a young age, and that's where they grew up. I didn't come from that. Like I grew up playing soccer and only came to triathlon and competitive swimming late. And it's a technical sport, man. Like it's hard to master with constant revisiting the basics, like every single session you do. So I didn't. I was a good bike runner, just never had the top end sort of speed or the backing in my swim to keep me where I needed to be. Yeah. So it was always in the back of my mind I was never going to be an elite dude. And man.
Walking in, like you were saying, to the SAS and that environment and seeing, I suppose, that goal orientated, hey, this is what we're doing, we're constantly improving. That was just like, that was give me like, more.
Yeah, that's right, man. And it was almost like the standard anyway, like it wasn't anything that, not to say that the environment wasn't new to me, but the process, like the whole set a goal, reverse engineer how you're going to achieve the goal, put behaviours and principles in place to achieve it. That wasn't new to me. So it wasn't something that I probably, like I said, man, I wasn't consciously aware of. It was just that subconscious piece from being exposed to it from a young age.
Yeah, it's funny how we work like that.
I know, mate. Yeah, crazy.
We're on autopilot.
Yeah.
I'm probably overthinking it and messing with the autopilot too much. Yeah. With the culture, like in those sorts of teams, is that, you walk into that, is that because it's on display? Is that because there's signs up on the wall? Like what is it?
Nah, and this is one of the, I think like when I joined the army, man, you drive into pretty much every barracks and there's big signs that say like integrity, loyalty, teamwork, and they're just, their values. It's like, it almost feels like they mean nothing because they're so publicly displayed, and it's almost just like a PR statement, like, oh yeah, this has to be here. Whereas I think from a culture piece, going into my first team was really cool. Like my first team leader, Hamish, so he's done a podcast as well. Yeah. So he's coming out publicly. He was really good in the fact that he sat me down like in the first couple of days I was in the team. It was like, hey, it was called an operator contract, and it was like a daily renewable contract. Basically, said like, here's the expectations that we have of you as a member of this team. Here's the value we place on your life, and here's the behaviours and principles that we ask you to buy into. You sign that, and that sort of it's not displayed. Later on in my career, there was definitely a concept behind like developing a culture contract that is displayed, or developing a culture contract within your team that does get displayed. Yeah. Not publicly, but more so in the sanctuary of your team.
This is
areas.
what we stand for.
That's right. Yeah. So it's just that, and that's not to form micro cultures or anything toxic like that. It was more so just that we're the ones that buy into this, and it's not something that's displayed to the cleaner or the visitor to the regiment. It's like this is what we live by within these four walls, and when we're conducting ourselves. So no, not just plastered around like another. I use the analogy of it's not just another workplace health and safety poster behind the wash basin, like telling you how to wash your hands. Because I think when it's just that sort of visual display of culture is forced upon someone, they don't buy into it, man.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, to answer your question, it wasn't displayed like that. In certain areas it was, but more so around how that was modelled. Like, hey, here's the expectations that we ask of you. But then seeing how the boys in my team that were studs and the team leader like modelled that. Hey, here's the standard. I'm going to model it and just exceed it as well. Like always looking to exceed that standard and push the boundaries, but reestablish a higher bar for yourself.
Yeah, you get into that point. You get through your into your reinforcement cycle. Is there like points there where you're going, shit, am I up to this? Like,
man. Yeah. Oh, hey, mate, the imposter syndrome, mate. I've still got it today. So, like, what am I doing on this bike? But yeah, absolutely, mate. Like you're like, man, like how do I earn my? Like, you've earned your seat at the table, but each day you got to make sure you're doing something to keep your seat at the table. And sometimes you're just like, man, who let me sit at this table? It's somewhat surreal to go into there and be surrounded by those guys. Like, I'm in the team now. Like I'm an SAS dude. I'm in my first team. I'm starting from the bottom again, and consciously being like, what am I doing each day to rock up to this team, make myself and the team better? That was the mindset you have to take. Probably be the same for you, man, from a sporting background too. Well, you go into some teams, right, and it's like what you're explaining. Some people that give you time, invest in you, really want to understand you and explain the reasons why things happen a certain way, and importantly, model it themselves. Don't just preach to you. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was like that. So my exposure, that was really good. Really, very positive. And I'd say for 90% of the guys that went into off my training cycle, that went into their first team, that was probably a similar way that they were received. Yeah. But yeah.
And people sort of jump outside of those, the human beings, whether we get a bit ahead of ourselves or whatever, And I imagine in that environment too, like you get through all that, you get through your course, you get through your reinforcement cycle. Like I'd imagine you're pretty pumped up.
Oh,
like,
man, yeah, you like
like bulletproof.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, somewhat. I think, but not really, man. I wouldn't say bulletproof, because I think you have a very, there's definitely a drive here. You feel, like you're a dog on the lead, man. Like you want to get after something.
Okay. Yeah.
But at the same time, your egos are kept in check.
How do they do that? How do they maintain the standards?
I'd say, I think the selection piece is a massive part of that. Being able to select based off personality attributes. Like if you are seen to be, I think I'd caveat this by saying I think ego to a certain extent is good, because it equals confidence in your ability. But when it turns negative or detracts from your performance and the team's performance, like culture, I think those sort of toxic egos, they're weeded out quickly, man. Like
really,
you can be a highly proficient technical performer, but if you're displaying those egotistical attributes, you're not going to fit into a team. You're going to be at the detriment of the capability in the team, so you'll get binned. So I think that's weeded out early. But also having talking about being bulletproof, like having literally being taught about, the impacts of and the consequences of poor decisions, inaction, failure within. I wouldn't say failure, because sometimes a lot of stuff's out of your control, but like understand the consequences of the game, the sport that we're playing, being combat. So there was no illusions as to being bulletproof. I had a couple of hard landings on my military free fall course as well, so I knew that I wasn't that bulletproof. I knew that my body would hurt and ache at times.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think, and that would be one of the points I at a later point in my career, like mentoring guys and training guys to go into the teams. That was the main point. Like, don't think that you're not allowed to have an ego. Be confident in your ability, man, because you've passed these gates. You're going into a team of high performing dudes. You've earned your right to be in that team, but don't let it go to your head. Go in there with the approach of being, like, big ears, small mouth. Speak up when you see you need to, but don't be that guy that goes in there trying to peacock, because you'll get shut down and you'll have a short career.
Feeling like you belong and included in your troop and so forth. Like, was that pretty good? Like, they supported that?
Yeah,
like,
100%, mate.
Yeah.
So Hamish, my first team commander, he had a really good way of sort of welcoming us and putting us to work straight away, I suppose, understanding where our strengths lay. He also got us to sort of run training for the team and the troop early on, based off what was just coming off the training cycle. He viewed us as the subject matter experts on the latest and greatest teachings. So, putting the ownership back on us and providing us the agency to go and run training and model ourselves in front of the team, both personally and professionally. So, they can see us or showcase ourselves. That was really cool. There's a level of acceptance that was rapid there, I think, and that helped it, man. So that would be an example of how well we were received.
If you feel that you're not well received, you start then compensating for that, right? And you start, like, just human beings, right? We start compensating for that and try and push it a little bit more and do things outside of what we normally are of our character, right? But if you're included straight away, and what you want me to deliver something? Okay, I'm the new guy.
Yeah. And that's like tribal culture, man, isn't it? That's belonging. You want to belong to that tribe, and I think, and having seen the opposite of that as well. Seeing dudes that maybe were high performing dudes. They were that dog on the lead that's chomping at the bit to get off and drive, and maybe their motivation wasn't harnessed as well as what, like, my experiences were. And I talk about it now, man, with teams I train and work with now. It says that's almost like the number one inhibitor to, like, individual performance. Like, when you haven't harnessed that guy's motivation, you haven't channeled it well enough, guy or girl. When you haven't harnessed that well enough and put them to work early, made them feel included and belonging and that sort of stuff, and it's just like treating them like a new, rookie sort of mentality. That's going to be at the detriment of their performance. Being like, that's a crucial point in someone's career, man, making that first jump into their team, and there's an opportunity as a team leader to harness it. And when I see that get missed, I see that you see the motivation and the confidence that was in a person initially just sort of fall by the wayside. So the leadership has a massive part in that, man.
With the work that you do too right now, is like, you see that in heaps of organizations, right? Someone starts, so they're the new person, like they've got to earn their stripes, so to speak. They've got to earn their way before they're able to do things or allowed to do things. But they've got this fresh energy, fresh eyes. There's benefits there for the existing guys, obviously, right?
There is. And I think one of those other benefits that's probably unspoken, but is one of the, it's just through being human beings, is that level of competition. You got a new person coming to the team, everyone's like, oh, what's it? You want to level up, and because you do, man. You come off that training cycle, and we joke about saying that, but it's not really a joke. We're saying you'll be, the point you come off that training cycle, that's the best you will ever be, because then when you get to a squadron, other things will detract from your ability to train all the time, and you're humming. So then, guys like, you got a new dude coming in, they're excited about it, but at the same time, they're like, I need to be on my game now, because this guy's going to come in, he's probably going to be real slick. So it's good. It's good for healthy competition.
What's that like, though? Like, you've got some high performers in there, and I get that you try and weed out as much as you can, the people that's going to be more about themselves and the team by the sounds of it, right? And get those character traits. I'd imagine, though, like, there's some strong personalities within those groups and different things like that. That competition between, like, troops and patrols and squadrons, like, what is there?
It's healthy, man.
Yeah,
I'll say that. I think it's good, man. It's good for good banter. You need that stuff, man. You need it.
Let's talk about that, because competition gets a bad rap, right? And it pisses me off, because we're all ingrained to compete, with everything, how we look, what we do, all this sort of stuff, that neighbour's got more than me, or, keeping up with it, whatever it is, right?
Not on my street, man. My grass is the best. You ask me, I'll tell you.
That competition, healthy competition, like what did you sort of observe that, okay, well, this is good? Man,
it's good for capability. It's good for, always, I talk about the relentless pursuit of greater value, and always looking to exceed mediocrity and, status quo. Like, when you have that environment where guys are sort of in healthy competition with each other and driving to be, whether that's been driving capability, driving a new bit of kit, a new tactic, technique, procedure, whatever it might be, man. It's always that like how can we be a better piece? And with that, you're naturally going to exceed mediocrity anyway. You know, it's almost like a baseline standard just keeps rising and rising anyway, and you just keep staying on top of it. So I think it's good for culture, because it's we're competitive dudes, and by the nature of the employment in that space, it's competitive. And that's not in the regiment. I think that's in all sort of elite sporting teams, mission critical teams. Like tactical rescue response teams. It's healthy to have that kind of stuff as well when managed well. Yeah. When it's not managed so well, that's when it sort of becomes detrimental or unhealthy competition. So
just if someone's doing it for their own personal gain.
Yeah. And I think if it's sort of self-serving as opposed to for the good of the team.
It's an interesting topic. It gets a bad rap, competition. And it's sort of, I don't know, as humans, we're the ones that do it disservice, like anything else, right? It's like competition is a good thing, and it drives us, and it can be really harnessed. But like anything else, it can be used for bad. Like, it can go a bit sour. So you get in, pretty proud moment, I imagine. Mm-hmm. You complete your reinforcement cycle. Like, how was that?
Wicked, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty proud moment. So you get your beret, like you get your hat at the end of it, so your beret. That's a really proud moment. Your family comes across.
Cool.
Mum and dad come across. That was really good.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to get that moment of recognition, I suppose, with the cohort that you've gone through that selection training cycle with. Like I'd say, some of my closest mates today still, like all those guys.
So 20 odd guys, was it?
We get to finish off with, man. I think we got maybe 19 of us got beret.
Okay.
A couple of guys went, were either removed or had to come back to do stuff again. Man, so that was it. 19 of us, from memory, man. Got beret. Really cool moment. One of the proudest days of your life, really.
Yeah.
So,
what an achievement. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, straight to work, man.
Yeah.
That's when it starts.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Like all that, you just get to the starting line.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah. It's a long way to get there, but then you're there. And then it's that whole concept of like earning your seat at that table every day. What am I doing every day to earn my seat? What am I doing to not just maintain a standard, but exceed the standard?
And what's that structure look like, Chris? Like, is that, you guys have, regimented training programs that you do? Is there, like physical fitness happens in this block, like an elite sporting team, right? Like you've done some stuff with the Swans and things like that. It's like, okay, well, they'll have a block in the morning, they'll have a block in the afternoon, they might do some education stuff in the middle, whatever it is, right? Like, how did that all work?
Probably very different to a sporting team.
Yeah.
It was, and I haven't done stuff with the Swans in the physical, in the training space, but it's more so like the structure of the day would be like, everyone trains. Everyone goes and does some sort of physical training. If it's as a group, it might be individually. During the day, you might be on the range. You might be shooting. You might be doing jumping. You might be doing your specialist skills. You might be preparing to go somewhere. You might be planning for something. There's no real single way that a day looks. Every day is different. But you're getting training in. Not necessarily getting the recovery in, but
what about that? Like you're getting banged up, like you're doing a lot of physical stuff. Like pretty much everything is physical. Right? Like that support there is like that pretty good. Like
somewhat, man. I think they within the regiment at the time they had a newly established, I think it was called the High Performance or Human Performance Cell. I can't necessarily remember, but it was very much about trying to round people out and create an awareness around those training principles and performance principles, making sure that we're socially integrated, we're maybe trying to get educated as well, and also with the physiotherapy and the psychology and the sort of stuff that comes with performance. But for the most part, man, the tempo sort of, this is my experience with it, but the tempo sort of didn't allow guys to necessarily access those resources as much as what they should.
Yeah.
So dudes are hiding injuries just so they can get on deployment.
Well, it's the same in sports, right? Like, blokes will...
Mate, you guys are precious. You get to sleep each day. No.
I agree compared to you guys. That's 100% sure. With what you guys put on the line, there's no comparison, that's for sure. Yeah. But no, you're right. It's just like as humans, we want something like, I'll suck it up. That's
you're right, man.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's where, I think that's where the big differences are, man, between like that elite tactical response rescue environment compared to that elite sports. A lot of people draw comparisons, and I think that would be the biggest thing around that. The ability to really, the sporting world, focus on a specific thing, whether it's like you're doing a conditioning session in the morning and then you get to go home and, sleep for a couple of hours before coming back to do whatever it might be in the afternoon. Whereas, in the regiment, it's probably just like go train poorly, probably because you did the same workout yesterday, just deadlifts and bicep curls again.
Yeah.
And then maybe chew tobacco all day. And then, so from a nutrition recovery perspective, things aren't always as elite as what they could be. Yeah. So, man.
But is that probably a good thing though, mate? Like,
yeah, that's right, man. You don't want to, in my opinion, man, guys try to sort of benchmark us against, I've got to stop saying us and we because, detaching from the regiment now, but when I was there, it was like guys would try and, or people and organisations would try and benchmark us against elite sports people. And I don't know how or why, but it was like, it's different, the consequences, the range of skills you had to maintain as well is so much different,
because there's insertion skills, like there's so many of them. There's what you're doing depending, and I imagine what you're training on will depend on what's going on around the world and what the environment's like, and what you do. Yeah. And there's a broad range of those, you've got all these, whereas, someone playing footy in one position, it's just like, okay.
Right. You just got to run it straight.
Yeah. Don't miss tackles and do this many runs. Like, and there's obviously some stuff that goes with it, but there's a broad range. So it's just you're constantly honing those skills throughout that.
A lot of shooting. Yeah. A lot of shooting, a lot of breach, like demolition sort of stuff. But then it really depends on what your task as a squadron or troop is for that year. Could be, you could be prepping for a deployment, could be prepping for a exercise, maybe proof of concept you're trying to establish. What are we working towards? When is it? Like, I talked about before, that reverse engineered piece. How are we looking to achieve that end state? So, man, a lot of that.
Because that's key, right? That plan, like even your recruitment process, right? Mm-hmm. Like you look at businesses and how they recruit, right? Let's say the low level, we'll put something in Seek, we'll get someone, and we'll get the best of the lot, right? Whereas, that process of identifying talent, of, testing and some benchmarks from a physical standpoint prior to, and then you've got testing and so forth, assessment.
Yeah, there's a period of time where you do your entry test.
To get to the point where you're on a selection.
That's right.
Yeah. Then you survive, hopefully, the selection.
That's basically it.
And then survive your reinforcement, your 18 months of training, then to start, right? And you can get from a business point of view is like, okay, well, look, we don't have that time.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, would you want the results?
Yeah.
Like, you guys do that for a good reason. It's not just because you want to. There's some reasons you're reverse engineering what's needed to produce the talent and the quality, right?
Yeah, and I think that's that's a luxury of having your own internal selection and screening process as well. Not every organisation has that. Like you said, it's more recruitment as opposed to selection. So when you have the opportunity to select off, talk about the performance and trust model before, made famous by Simon Sinek, selecting someone based off their personal attributes or recruiting someone based off their personal attributes isn't necessarily done in these organisations because it's very qualification or experience based. And I think now, we both work with different teams in different capacities, and that's generally where the differences exist, I think, between sporting teams and military and law enforcement teams compared to high-performing corporate teams, where, I suppose there's an element of cultural fit and that sort of stuff that might get assessed, but it's not prioritised. No. And the priority is given to someone's experiences and qualifications as opposed to that's it, man. Yeah.
Which is the hard thing. And if you talk to any team, what's the biggest bugbear? Is it because you've got a lack of technical expertise and that's really hard to train that to your team, or is it because there's the people side of things and some people are hard to work with or aren't performing personally from how they should be and what's expected, and they're the things that you find,
That's right. And you can train someone from a technical skill set, and going back to that whole performance trust model, prioritising people who sit on the far end of the trust spectrum before you do on the performance spectrum. You could be a really high performer, but you're not trustworthy. That means you're toxic, which means that you're not fit for purpose, as opposed to someone who might be very trustworthy, culturally aligned, strong display of personal attributes. They might not be the highest performing person, but that's sweet. You can develop that stuff. It's easier to develop those hard skills than what it is to go into a person's mind and rewire their processes, And we're not psychologists, we're just coaches and trainers. So that's it, man. I think from a corporate perspective, they don't have the opportunity to do that. If they had the ability to do that, that's where I'd say prioritise those personal attributes as opposed to. I understand that education and experience plays a massive part in it, but maybe if you had the opportunity to prioritise someone's attributes as opposed to their expensive bit of paper they got from the university,
Well, it's just that length of time too, mate. Like you look at that, that period of time. It's like, okay, I apply for a job. I'm on my best behaviour for the first interview, and I'm on my best behaviour for the second interview, and I hope my references, talk highly about me, which I've hand-picked.
Yeah, I hope they answer the phone.
Yeah, that's right.
Or give it a mum's number.
But as well, no childhood stories. But you can bluff that, but that's easy to bluff. But when you've got a situation where you're going through that, and the physical, the physicality of that selection course, and then everything else that you're doing is like, you see people in there, when they're under pressure, under stress, not when they're, freshly slept, sitting in front of you and on their best behavior. You can weed that stuff, or identify that stuff. You feel it in your gut, you can see it. You get that gut feel.
And I suppose, like in a corporate sense, the first time you might see someone's true colours, or when they're under stress, is mid-project. Right? 9 months in, and shit, we're stuck. What do we do now? Like, you weren't the person we interviewed. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is. So much weight between, getting through and then your deployment?
Yeah, I suppose so. I spent a bit of time just doing like advanced training courses, career progression courses, which are somewhat generic. Career progression within the regiment's a little bit different. You have to sort of go back and do a lot of those courses that you do as a REO. You go back and instruct on them.
Okay. So
you become a qualified supervisor in them. So I sort of did that piece. I got sparked for not a lot of trips, a few little trips here and there. Yeah. So I went on a couple of just little like non-kinetic, as in non-action trips. It was very much around like liaison functions. And then, I sort of didn't get my first opportunity for a proper deployment till I was a 2IC in a team.
What was that like?
Good, man. Yeah, it's cool.
About time? Was it like that? You were itching?
Somewhat, man. Yeah, it was cool. Like, it came at a good time in my career. I've done a lot of the courses I needed to do to progress into being a team leader. I was in a new relationship, somewhat of a new relationship at the time when I found out about that first deployment, which added another layer of complexity to it.
Yeah.
Man, so I deployed it was meant to be 6 months. I ended up being away for 9 months, near on 10 months, because it was during COVID. I had to have quarantine on the back end of it too.
So new relationship, 9 months away.
9 months away.
Okay.
Yeah, man. And then my partner at the time, she's now my wife, but my partner was at the time due to come over to, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit of the story here, but on the deployment, this is just, set the conditions and the scene for it. We're meant to have a mid-deployment leave.
Yes.
And she was going to come over in the vicinity of where I was, and we're going to have a holiday. And then the world shut down, so she couldn't come. So the same week that I told her that, hey, we can't have that holiday, but it's also by the way, I'm extending for 3 months. Yeah. So that was a good test of a new relationship.
Yeah, you bet.
Made it work. But man, so deployed individually to a role that was really cool. It was quite, I talk about full spectrum of special operations. I talk from diplomatic engagement through to training and deploying with a host nation force in support of some other broader global objectives.
Yeah.
And the area we deployed in, man, it was working with a good bunch of passionate local host nation guys, particularly around counter-terrorism, counter-violent extremism, and I won't go too deep into the weeds about that sort of stuff, but it was a really cool trip in the fact that I got to be on my own, run my own race somewhat, and good exposure to leaders and teams outside of the world that I'd sort of been in, both from some US guys, but then also the local guys that were there as well. That was really good to see how leadership principles applied in different environments still remained the same, but and also just take little 1%ers from how it was worked well and cross-culturally.
Reaffirming to what what you've been exposed to. It's okay. Well, some people that from the other side of the world or wherever, And
I suppose the way to summarise that, man, the feeling of getting on your first deployment would be we talk about it. Imagine being training to be a surgeon, and you have to wait years and years and years to actually do your first surgery. Imagine you make your run-on team to be an elite sports team, but you don't actually get to take to the field for 5 seasons. You have to sit on the bench. So to get an opportunity was like that. Here's my chance now. So
dedication.
And that was sort of how I approached it. I was a little bit more open-minded at the start, understanding navigating some of those human and cultural differences, finding my feet, and from a leadership perspective too, culturally, the area I deployed to, I was a baby-faced dude. You know, I was 30 years old at the time. I didn't have a grey beard. So having to navigate those cultural differences and understand how I fit in and get buy-in.
Yeah, so build some trust with them.
Build some trust, man, 100%.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, because culturally, if you had a grey beard, you were wise, whereas I was baby-faced.
Yeah.
So it was cool, man. I had some opportunities early on in the trip to earn that trust with some of the local guys, in the fact that I was able to help them out on a particular job, you know, provide a tactical effect that maybe preserve some of their life or enable them to conduct a task more efficiently. And that was cool. So we did, there was actually a hostage rescue mission where the bad dudes in the area that I was in kidnapped some hostages from a neighbouring country, held them for a while, and then, I was able to enable them to plan for and go and conduct that rescue. So that was a really good feel good moment early on, which got buy-in. You know, they're like, okay, cool, this baby-faced dude from Australia.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just say that, actually. It was very much, I was relying on the reputation of the regiment and the guys that had really forged that reputation, the professionals that existed there. You know, so I was almost like gifted a little bit more. They gave me trust purely because of the fact that I came there with that label.
Yes.
They're like, oh yeah, the fact that he's from that unit means X, Y, and Z. So that was cool. But I didn't want to rely on that. You know, from a personal perspective, I was like, what can I do from my own self to earn trust and earn my seat at their table, right? Now I'm at their table. And yes, that was a cool experience, man. Spent the best part of 9 months helping them do those sorts of missions. Which was great. Some key experiences and sort of exposures that really shaped leadership and coaching aspects.
Okay.
So when I came back from that deployment, I'll talk to in a second, you know, going into those. But yeah, man, I think that was a good deployment. It was my first exposure to the realities of of combat as well. But the currency you deal with is unfortunately human life, and we had guys that were lost on that trip from a range of units that I worked with, which was at the time, man, like pretty emotional and like hard to deal with, and just working through those sorts of things and test your resilience, and you sort of put those mechanisms in place to deal with those but take away lessons learned, so that next time you're constantly seeking improvement, and making sure that, you know, that lesson that was learnt the hard way doesn't just get forgotten about. Or that was cool, man. So I got to take that back into the training environment, not necessarily back in Australia, but back in that deployment. Another function of mine was to train some of the host nation guys to deploy. So I'd see the lessons that were being drawn out from some of the critical incidents on that deployment, take them back into the training environment, design training around it, and then enable those guys to deploy into similar areas to have a better effect.
Is that hard going? You know, like people from another country, you know, like you said, fair reputation, you built some reputation with the SAS and so forth, being involved, and then some trust that you built up. But was that hard going?
Yeah.
Training in that way? Because I imagine you can't just probably tell them, hey, this is what you need to do, obviously. Like, and it's probably not your style.
That's right.
Or
That's
the
not my style.
regiment style.
No, but it was very much their style at the time.
Okay.
So that was another one of those things I had to navigate, was understanding their approach to training.
Yeah.
And it was and their approach to leadership too, man. Like, I'd say in our context, a tactical leader or a coal-faced leader, where the rubber meets the road, let's say a sporting captain, you aren't necessarily driving momentum from the front, you know, whereas you're that one step removed. You're situationally aware. You've got a greater awareness of the team's movement, and you're sort of shaping the team. You're guiding them, as opposed to being at the front. They'll come with me, blow my whistle, and run after me. Yeah. Whereas in their world, it was like that.
Okay.
So their leaders were the ones going through the door first. They were the ones that were like, "Come with me." And culturally, to understand how that worked was I was lucky to see that early on. Yeah. I was also really lucky to have a really good mate, who I became a really good mate with him on that deployment. He was a platoon leader, like a platoon commander of a host nation group of guys. Very experienced guy in his own right. Combat veteran of multiple tours, and he explained that to me. He had a good understanding. He was a very well-educated dude. He was an officer in the school that he went through to become an officer. They have to speak English for the first year, so that when they integrate with people, when they interact with Australians, Americans, and other nations, they they speak English. So this dude's really, really well aware of cultural differences, and he was able to translate them well for me, like literally and figuratively. He'd translate them. And he's like, yeah, man, like, understand the differences. These are where the differences exist. And these are probably some of the hurdles that you'll have to jump across in trying to land your message of adult learning and providing agency and autonomy to people in your team to do that task for you. You don't have to do everything yourself as a leader. So that was cool, man. It probably took me within their training space, probably 2 or 3 months just to observe, not try and change things too early. Yeah, because that's because people don't like change. So man, just being conscious of that too, not just trying to come in there and be this peacock, trying to peacock around and be like, do it my way, because there were other people from other nations there that were doing that, and I could see how poorly it was received.
So a concerted effort to sort of understand what they do and be seen to,
put the learning. That's right, man. But not be like, hey, this is my way or the regiment's way. Let's come up with your way. Let's take the environments you guys are working in. Let's take your legacy sort of jobs and the things that are unique to you as an environment, your cultural fabric, and work it into your own way of doing things, so that and they like that, because then they were getting shaped in their own direction, not just being told, do it like this. So that's cool.
Well, that's we were talking before about that principle-based training, right, man. Essentially. And I suppose, like, talk a little bit more about that, because that's a cool approach, right? Like, there's a framework or there's a principle, right? And you're working through it together. They're getting input, they're making some decisions and understanding it all along the way, buying into, and thinking that it's probably, it is their ideas to a certain extent, but you're guiding them down that instead of being up the front and saying, and we do this.
I think the differences would be like the difference between a principle-based approach as opposed to like a drill-based approach, like in let's say an American football team, like the quarterback has on his arm literally a list of all of the plays that they are choreographed, right? And the coach tells him, or whatever it is, tells him, do this one. And there's an element to understanding the play, reading the play, being a tactical decision maker. There is an element to that. But at the same time, it's templated. They're like, we're doing this thing. And they speak a different language, and they all know what that language is, and they go and do it. There's a little saying, like in the tactical world, is that no good plan survives first contact with the enemy. And it's like, you can have the best plan in the world, you can try and script it as much as you can, but the enemy always has a vote, or the opposition always has a vote. So applying that mindset, being like that, we can't just have drills, because no single way of doing something is going to work in every scenario, because every scenario, every field they play on, to put it in sporting terms again, is different. The goalposts move. The boundaries aren't linear. Sometimes you might train for a rectangle-shaped environment, and you rock up and it's, oh man, all of a sudden I'm playing league on an AFL oval, and I've got different goalposts and they keep moving. So it's that having that fluidity built into your decision making to apply principles, as opposed to thinking back to what was that drill I needed to do. If I do this thing, and this thing, and rely on principles after that, and I don't want to go too hard into like the in a tactical context about what that would look like and give away like TTPs, but that was the approach we took. That might be close quarter battle, how we go into that room. It might be how we approach that moving from here to there, from moving from A to B. Is it templated? Is it not? It's a principle-based approach where it allows team leaders' decision-making to drive it, as opposed to them thinking back to what that picture was I saw on a whiteboard.
And like the consequences don't allow for that either, right? Like if the play finishes, okay, well, we'll let them have, or we get another one, or
turn the ball over.
Yeah. Well, if obviously if it doesn't work, and you can't think on your feet, there's some serious consequences. And
that's human life, man. And that's the realities of mission critical teams. People that saddle up and ride willingly towards threat with their team. It's when you're dealing with look at my wife's a first responder. You're looking at ambulance, fireys, police. Tactical police, military to some extent as well. Like they rock up, they go to work each day, and they don't know what their field, what their sporting environment's going to look like. They could be. Oh man, I just worked recently with a specialist police group, and only this week now, at the time of recording, and like I have worked with them. This is a bit of a tangent here. I've worked with them previously in a training space, but to have an understanding this week of like the broad spectrum of incidents that they have to attend in a weekly basis. Man, you can't drill that stuff. Like half that stuff they attend to, you don't get taught in the police recruit school. You don't get taught here. You can't even design a scenario for half that stuff. Yeah. So for them to be able to go out there and apply I've got a concept I call win-win in a second, like the decision-making frameworks that allow you to understand your environment, make decisions based off atmospherics as opposed to what your book tells you need to do. But yeah, man, so I sort of relate it to them, like in an elite team context, there's parallels between the sporting world, but there's a lot of differences too. Yeah. You said consequences, man. Consequences are the big thing, right? You don't just turn the ball over. And, if you lose a game, you have a closed door discussion, you have a bit of a hot wash debrief, a bit of rapid acceptance, and then learn from it next week.
Yeah.
We missed out on a couple of points on the overall leaderboard, but hey, man, as opposed to in those mission critical events, like you're dealing with the consequence of inaction, poor decisions, or losing is like it could be life, limb, or property.
That process, mate, when things do go wrong, like that, support, or whether, how you deal with that. And, I've picked up a little bit on regards to, okay, well, how can we utilize something that's gone wrong and use it in a positive way to show that it doesn't happen again, or teach the next generation, or whatever it is. Yeah,
man. That's growth culture. Yeah. Like looking to debrief every critical incident to draw out learning points, not to kick asses, and even to debrief positive outcomes, right? Because, I won't go on that sidebar yet, but man, I think that's the big piece is like, how can we improve? Yeah, growth culture. And if you're not employing that, then you're not prioritizing growth and getting better. You're just sort of looking to highlight failures and kick asses. So.
Yeah, the debrief process is key to that. Yeah,
100%, man. Yeah, really, and it closes that feedback loop on what occurred at a critical incident. And I suppose again, the differences between a sporting hot wash versus a post-critical incident hot wash, and I think particularly if there's a fatality or a casualty, being able to close that feedback loop, provide that safe space for people to talk about that before they learn from it and then go on. It also, I think that debriefing piece as well allows people to maybe be observed in leadership roles. You know what I mean? Like it's a good opportunity for you to display yourself as a leader. In a not so critical incident, let's say, like it's been a good job. Maybe it's an opportunity for you as a leader to throw the debrief to one of your emerging leaders. Yeah. Hey man, run this for us, because it's a good opportunity to do that. But yeah, man, the debrief piece I go hard on with teams that I work with now because it was something that I think I took for granted. And I think coming from like elite sports, I'd say that, elite sports debrief well, like, into the sheds, pretty beer in hand. And where do we go well? Where do we go not so well, and how can we improve? And I don't want to give you framework away, but there's a specific framework I work with teams around, and being able to work through might be a negative outcome, might be a positive outcome, and it might just be a neutral one. But regardless, here's a framework to work through that, and it looks at like what the incident was, what worked well, what we can improve on, what's the plan going forward, and then especially around equipment when it comes to these teams as well. You're using mechanical equipment, a chance to sort of debrief that, but then also be accountable. It's that opportunity to own up to things that might have deviated from the one safe, that were deviated from the plan, or detracted from culture, right? So it's a good opportunity to be accountable too, and that enforces that good culture within the teams. From let's say another perspective on debriefing, knowing the debrief is going to occur religiously, as part of that cycle, allows team members a space to be like, it's okay, I've got a place I can vent after this, and they're not going to undermine leadership. They're not going to detract from the performance on the sporting field, or
that's a great point,
at that critical incident. And I worked with a team recently, and another guy who's a really high performing guy in a rescue space, and we're talking about how at a job where they might not necessarily be in agreement with their team leader's decision about what's occurring. They can see it's going to work, and instead of injecting, I've got a better way of doing something, or trying to speak up and potentially undermine his decision in front of the other team, or maybe external agencies as well. It's like, I know there's going to be a debrief at the end of this. I can bring it up there.
Let's play it out.
That's
right.
What
happens.
That's it. Okay. It's going to work, and the outcome will be, let's say, patient or mission focused, and that's what we're there to do. Yeah. And at the end of the day, man, you want the best plan, not your plan. So having that opportunity at the end of the incident to have a debrief, like, cool, I can air my grievances there. If I'll get to the debrief and it's not even something I'm worried about anymore, it's probably not worth bringing up.
Yeah, that's a good point on reflection. Yeah, hey, I had a differing opinion, and it's tweaked. 10 seconds from now, and if I opened my mouth, it would have caused something.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's And that deployment was definitely one of the. It was like we debriefed religiously in the regiment or in my teams, but that deployment was sort of one of my main takeaways from that was like the significance of a quality hot wash debrief, just to sort of close that feedback loop from a from a psychological perspective too, like speak about incidents, learn from them, and then develop a plan.
You look at sporting teams and it's sort of like the review process of, a competition, right? And it's sort of, okay, well, yeah, you can see it from a score point of view. There's an outcome as such that things doesn't go well, right? Or it did go well. But then also your own performance, you've got some key statistics and black and white data to say, okay, well, this worked. Then you're doing a video debrief. You're getting feedback from different coaches or whoever else, right, that want to put in their two bobs. And it's, there's plenty of data there for you to go and review it. And then you, importantly, get another opportunity to change things in a week's time, possibly, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But, from a business standpoint and organizational point of view, there's always something on the go. So, hey, do we allow time for a debrief when something does go wrong? And if there isn't that structure and that, repetition and I suppose understanding that it's going to happen, well, you are going to get all those little things, differing opinions pop up, people fighting against each other. It's going to happen, pointing the finger. Yeah,
that's right, man.
Yeah, you can put some structure in place to get rid of that. Yeah.
And I think if you're not doing it as regularly as you should, then it becomes that finger pointing session.
Yeah.
And I think, man, like you have to have a level of professional and organisational maturity within these teams to be able to have the the confidence to. And this is one of the tenets I speak to now, like encouraging constructive conflict within teams. That's what makes people high performing. Well, not that's not the only thing, but one of the tenets that contributes to, or an attribute of a high performing team. Like it is encouraged to have those closed door discussions where you can let emotions out. You're not pointing fingers, you're not getting personal. It's all professional. But at the end of the day, it's all like once we walk out that door, we're committed to a specific outcome as a team, as opposed to turning a debrief into a shit slinging match. Pointing fingers, blaming people.
It's pretty sort of honest sort of situation. Those type of things you found. Like we've got a whole heap of fellas in here that are that are elite. You could probably understand, I don't want to show emotions and things like that, or I don't want to show that I did something wrong, like, hey, I messed up here, and airing that and getting differing opinions of that. Like that's pretty common that stuff happens in those enenvironments. Yeah.
And accountability is a big one too, man. Like people providing the opportunity for people to be accountable for actions. I think it's, man, and this is again, I think, I don't want to get too negative. Like debriefs aren't about negative stuff.
No.
Because I think that's the bias towards debriefing sometimes, is that we only debrief bad stuff and it's for an ass kicking. Whereas the debrief is also an opportunity to call out positive contribution and acknowledge someone's efforts internal to the team, because that's where it matters. It doesn't matter about getting your organisational wide email like, oh, Daniel did this well. It doesn't matter. What matters to you, man, is getting recognition within your team, your tribe, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also a good opportunity for that. But yeah, man, you're right. In a corporate sense, I suppose like even in a mid-project debrief or a check-in, something like that, how we tracking, so we're not having to rely on a full hot wash at the end of this thing to unpack it.
What's hot wash, mate? What's that?
Oh, hot wash. Well, so hot wash was like a term that we use we adopted from some Americans. I know some sporting teams have adopted it now. But I just learned recently that the origins of the term hot wash, and it was off a ex-regiment guy as well. He's out now, also working in a consulting space. He talked about hot wash being dating back to like the colonial war days, where they would like go into battle with a muzzle-loaded rifle, where you put the gunpowder and the bullet down the barrel and you jam it down there with a rod. Yeah. And then you'd go into battle and these guns got really dirty. So once they'd finished their contact, they'd move back to a safe space and they'd give their guns that were hot a hot wash in kerosene. So they'd wash their hot guns. They were ready to go again.
So you'd have a chat around that process.
Yeah. How do we get ready to go again? And that was the mindset around hot washing a job. How do we pull out key takeaways from the job so that we can turn around in a moment's notice and go again?
Yeah.
So, I think it's sort of gone down now. People sort of think that the hot wash piece is like, pulling points out while they're still warm in our minds and that sort of thing, which, it works. But the hot wash, that's where the origins of that stem from, man. Like giving your guns your hot guns are washing kerosene so they're ready to go again.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, man.
So you had that initial deployment and then what, you come back after the 9 months and hopefully your new wife is still happy.
We weren't married at the time.
We weren't married.
Still girlfriend.
So your new partner's still okay with you?
Yeah, we managed that. But yeah, I mean, wicked deployment, personally and professionally, satisfied a lot of the the reasons I did selection as
Yeah.
well, to go and sort of have a first-hand effect on a real-world issue.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool process, Chris. Like, hey, I've got these ideas. I want to be in an elite sort of situation. You get there, it's everything and more you thought it was going to be. Then you get on a deployment and you're able to add some value and you love it. And it's, like you said, everything that you thought it would be and more. Cool feeling, right?
Yeah, man.
A good career decision. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose I came back from that motivated dude. Like, came back from that and I was like, I can't wait to put this into context back at the regiment. And the whole time I was away, I was thinking about, because I was away individually, right? So I wasn't part of an Australian team.
Is that unusual?
Yeah, not so much in the regiment. Like, you deploy in much smaller elements. And a lot of the time it might be multidisciplinary teams, so it's not just all operators.
Okay.
You might have other enablers that come and help you provide an effect that you've been tasked to go and achieve. So a lot of the time there's sort of like these smash teams that come together. You have to get to know them within a couple of weeks and then you deploy together. Yeah. So it's more common now, post-Afghan. Like the way in which the regiment's employed is different. So for me, man, like, I was on my own, but there were so many times throughout that trip where I was like, oh, I wish, someone, I can't say the names, but I think, oh, I wish Daniel was here because, man, he would have loved to see that. That would have been right up his alley. That thing that's in line with his specialty. I can't wait to go back and run training around this for him. So as it was, came back from that deployment. There was some like organisational restructure that went on, and I decided, and I asked to go down to a training environment. Okay. Because I thought that would be sort of with the structure that was, with the restructuring going on. And I was at that point in my career too where it was expected that you sort of go sideways into a different role so that you could round yourself a bit more professionally before coming back in to be a team leader. So I was lucky enough to do an internal posting where I went down to the selection and training wing of the regiment, and I sat in the seat with another guy above me as within like the close quarter fighting cell, where we trained the guys coming through the reinforcement cycle and like the martial skills and hostage rescue, combat applications, shooting, and
pretty cool to be on the other side of it.
Wicked, man. I've gone back to do my team leader course in that space in 2019 I did that. So it was wicked to go down there now in like the instructor capacity, but not just for the Rios coming through, like being able to help out and assist with the guys coming through the team leading course, those emerging leaders. So I had just a renewed sense of purpose. And highly motivated, man. Came back from that, professionally motivated. Personally, I was like, in a relationship that was so exciting and new, and it was cool as well. Really cool moment in my life. And it is still exciting, by the way, when Kate listens to this. But I still got a wedding ring on. But man, came back into that space. We looked to have a child as well. Yeah. So we had a kid. We did IVF to have our little fella, which was a process in itself, man. And we were gifted with our little dude. And man, spent 2 years in a little bit years in the training space, selection and training space. Yeah. Back to, while I was also doing some other promotion courses for sergeant and my patrol commander course, which is a team leader. In the SASR, team leader is called a patrol commander. Yeah. And then I went back to run a team in my final year of my career. A patrol as such, you've got, normally 5 or 6 people. 5 or 6 blokes. You've got a patrol commander. You've got a 2IC in that as well. And then you've got a troop above that as such, where you're a part of a troop. Yeah, patrol's part of a troop. Yeah. And then that's a part of a squadron type thing. Yes. And I don't want to talk about the structure of the organisation or anything like that too much, but that's all. It's probably open source anyway, or it is open source. But within you have a couple of teams within a troop. Interactions and competitions between different troops and patrols. There's a bit healthy again. 100%. Yeah. And if it's and I suppose actually probably one of the earlier, it was before I was even promoted for the first time. There was a bit of like unhealthy rivalry creeping in between a couple of teams. It was cool, man, because we just nipped it in the bud as operators, like rankless as well. So we were all just troopers, which is like a private rank equivalent. We just had that adult conversation at the table, like, what's going on? Why is there beef? And call it out, and it was fixed, and then the culture was humming again. So it was coming from within. It didn't have to come from above. And it probably highlights just how much of a sponge brain you are when you're a new guy, like guys that were maybe buying into some of the beef that more senior people had that wasn't their beef to have. And I was like, oh man, my team leader, that's his opinion, so that's my opinion too. Whereas we all sort of had that chat about, let's have some professional maturity and make your own opinions of each other. Most of us have come through the same training cycles. We're all good mates, so let's just
Keep it as that.
and it was wicked, man. But yeah, some good rivalries and healthy though, man. Good banter, and you got to have it, eh? Like it's and we're Australians too, so it's part of our culture. And so spent 2 and a bit years in that training space. Wicked, man. Really cool.
Understanding, like what the philosophy behind it all and things like that a little bit more. That was pretty eye-opening to see all that sort of stuff.
It was from the other side of the fence, I suppose. Being in that the cell that I was in, we had guys for their first course off the selection course. So that was a privilege, to be that first SAS dude that they're exposed to in a professional context outside of selection. And yeah, man, like my approach to that was somewhat of humorous, I didn't want to be this real serious dude that, I wanted to set some good conditions for their first exposure to leadership and that sort of, operator piece in the regiment. So we ran some weapons packages, like close quarter fighting, close quarter battle courses, mainly around hostage rescue, really high risk, high paced sort of stuff, high consequence.
Yeah. Under a lot of pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, but very, you can have high risk training, but it doesn't have to be dangerous, like the way that it was very purposely designed, outcome focused, and risk mitigated well. So it was really cool to be in that space.
Imagine too, you were ingraining like those debriefs straight after those sort of things from the start. Yeah.
Yeah.
So realistically, by the time you get to deployments and things like that and debriefs start to happen, they've been happening for years, like it's ingrained in you, right?
That's right. And it's not just that, it was different styles of debriefing too, whether it's training, it might be that quick, down and dirty, like a Socratically questioned debrief where, you pull the information out of a student and then more often than not, if they're self-aware, they'll tell you the points that you're going to tell them anyway, and then you can just agree with it or add to it. They provide you their fix, they take ownership of it, and it's it's on them. And they might not necessarily hit the nail on the head, or you might provide some further guidance or a little, maybe one point for this next run that I want you to take. So it's that real dynamic turnaround debrief, less than a minute. As opposed to, like a structured debrief that you might have a sit down with them once a week about how the performance is going. And same thing with the TET, like the guys going through their team leading package as well.
So you would have a one-on-one once a week with your...
I wouldn't. That would be on the guys who are like on their team leading package as well. That was part of their progression as well as, to satisfy their development, to have that debrief. And we would, myself and the guy I was in the cell with, we'd assist if we needed to.
Constant feedback,
And you almost take this for granted as well, like some of the training principles that were in place there. We had observers come from different tactical organisations around Australia, come and observe some of the training we're running, and the feedback was that, the conditions that have been set for adult learning, reverse engineered end state focused training, as opposed to just like rocking up to the range one day and hoping that, let's just go into a scenario, put targets here and there, we'll just see what happens. It was very, like everything had a specific measured outcome.
Well, it sounds like it was, we can always do with more resources, I suppose, in any sort of team or organisation. But, it sounds like it was resourced well and there was enough time there, because it's sort of like this, by the sounds of it, there was none, I don't want to go and train people. I want to actually go and do some stuff, But, there was, like you said, it was a bit of a, you're grateful to be able to pass on some stuff, right? It was held in a 100%. High esteem, Yeah,
and it was cool. It was a good position to be in, man. I always put that position in a bit of a pedestal. So when I got to go and sit in that seat, it was a privilege, and I just approached it with that mindset. But I think we're doing that. So 2 years, we ran a few of those larger courses. When we weren't running courses, I was on a course myself. Doing career progression.
And I imagine too, on all these other courses that you're on, it wouldn't necessarily, whether it's outside of that SAS environment and in sort of broader army and different things like that, you would see probably different styles of training and different debrief techniques, and probably go, we're on the right track here. Yeah.
Which I think is important, and the message in that one is to understand that sometimes we live in an echo chamber, and you can, I think that's most organisations too, and constantly review I came from a world where I was like, maybe we're not so polished, or maybe the product here could be better. Then you go back and you see where, okay, we're in a good spot. We're doing things really well.
You're reaffirming. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. And because by nature of that, by the nature of the unit and the sensitivities and the, I suppose I don't know, man. It feels like you live under a rock sometimes. So you are a little bit excluded from the outside world. And you do live in an echo chamber. Speaking out like this is, you wouldn't do a podcast while you're a serving member. You don't have social media. You're very
Secluded.
profile management sort of piece. But so when you do go out and you come out of your little world and you go and you see how other people are doing it, it just reaffirmed like, all right, we're in a good space.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad we're doing it this way. Yeah.
And that's probably to put it as nice as possible, man. Because I went back to do it. I went back to do one army course, and it was for promotion to sergeant. And the leadership module of that was underwhelming, man. Like it was just
Really.
We listened to some Jocko Willink YouTube video. It was like 10 minutes long, and then we were asked about some takeaways from it. And I'm not being sarcastic in this, but that was that was pretty much the leadership module, mate.
Really?
And I was like, man, if that's the leadership, module that's exposed to people who are going into, to where the rank is sergeant, man, you are a frontline leader. You go to where the rubber meets the road with your team.
Yeah, you're responsible.
If that's like the significant, like if that's how heavily weighted a leadership package is on that course, like man, we're in the regiment was and still is in a good spot in the way that they develop their junior leaders.
You're right. You get used to, hey, we do this, and you take it for granted a little bit, and it's like, to get that, affirmation that ours is actually pretty good. We don't want to get back to that.
That's right.
It was pretty cool. Making a decision to probably leave the SAS, hard, easy.
Hard, man. Yeah, it was hard, but also one that I did. I suppose at the time too, there was other sort of stuff going on outside of my control, politically and strategically, of which the regiment was very subject to, because they're very much a strategic asset. You're very heavily impacted by the government of the day, political decisions,
world events, everything.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. So, yes, world events. So, I was at that point where I was becoming jaded, and I didn't want to be one of those jaded leaders. So, yeah, man, I did that. I did my patrol commander's course. I was appointed as patrol commander in one squadron, and then I was at that point where I was like, well, anything past that I was more going into like administrative functions.
Yeah.
Looking
you
to
liked being with the team.
Yeah, I've been in the team. Yeah. And I was like, and unfortunately, I'd seen guys' careers sort of get ended outside their own, weren't on their terms. And I was like, man, while I've got the ability to finish my career happy, still able-bodied somewhat, carrying a few injuries, of a good, healthy mind, I'm still in a good relation. I'm looking to get married at this point. So I was like, I think that's a cool spot to call it a day.
Yeah.
And anything other than that, man, I talk about chasing the carrot. I didn't want to keep chasing the carrot around the world. You've been like, chasing my next best thing. And for me, man, what's important next became that, the family piece, like being a husband, being a dad.
Being there for your boy.
Yeah, man. So, and that was the decision to leave the regiment. So, so I discharged on the back end of 2023, and I was studying a master's in business at the time as well. I started that in 2021, and I'd sort of postponed it here and there while I was either on a course or running a course, or but I was like, right, well, for this next 12 months, I was a new dad. I got married at the back end of 23 as well. So I was like, this is my what's important next, all right?
Yeah.
And I suppose to elaborate on that, man, it was a little saying that was introduced to me as a Rio, going through the reinforcement cycle. It's called win-win. I didn't make it up. It was provided to me by a guy called Wayne Weeks. He was sort of in charge of that training space at the time. He's also done a podcast now, so I'll drop his name. But he introduced this win-win term, and it was cool. It was introduced as a way to help us cognitively reframe.
Snap out of it.
Yeah, man. When we're maybe trying to make a bit of an informed decision in the face of chaos, just to really prioritise what's actually important to us right now. What's important now, what's important next, and relying on your training to understand what that next process needs to be. Let's say doctors say A, B, C, D, E in medical. I'm flustered. I'm doing a medical event.
Yeah, shit.
What is important now? I need to be doing airway. All right, brings you back to that sort of piece. I've got another one I speak to with other teams around. I call them my 3 whats. What information do I need right now? Where do I find it? What do I do with it? Who needs to know about it? And what do I expect to eventuate from it? And that sort of one as well. I just I speak to those being like the 2 tools for dynamic decision making.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from win-win perspective, man, I used that throughout my career on operations, like making decisions. I've actually got written in a notebook because I was flustered at one point making a decision in response to a significant event with loss of life. I write win-win in my notebook, and I was just sort of I adopt that mindset, man. Push that onto the Rios as well, like have this sort of saying and help them out. So yeah, man, I was like, right, what's important now is that, I tie my career off while I'm happy. What's important next is that I'm there to be a good dad, good husband, and what's after that, I don't know. We're sort of treating it like hostage rescue. I wasn't planning too far past the front door.
Yeah.
I'll just figure out how I'm getting there, and then after that, I'll just rely on principles. And I finished off my masters. I was also very conscious of not being of idle hands, because knowing myself and my personality, I was like, man, if I stop, I'm going to become crazy. So I was like, I had a personal and professional goal. Like professionally, I was finishing off my masters in business, and then personally, I just sort of like, well, I'm going to get back into some triathlons, more so for injury management. I got back into swimming to help my neck and my back out. Yeah. And I got bored of staring at a black line on the pool without having a goal. So I was like, well, I'm gonna. A good mate of mine who was also in the regiment, he just had a really good result down at Ironman WA. He had an awesome result, man. Like one of the best age group triathletes in the world, and that sort of reignited the fire in my belly to get back into some triathlon. So I was like, well, while I'm doing this swimming for no good reason, let's put a goal on this. So I was like, let's do a half Ironman. So I set myself my goal of doing that. And then my wife, also knowing my personality, was like, this isn't where this is going to end. So I ended up qualifying for half Ironman World Championships as well. So then that I kept training for that. But it was good, man, because that gave me that structure I needed to get through that. I call it my gap year. Moving away from the regiment, looking to what is important next. Finish this masters off and then re-establish myself, and not necessarily trying to put too much pressure on myself to find my next forever job. Thinking about like, what am I going to do after this as a bit of a lily pad, like, to enable me to move towards. I'll quote a mentor that I've sort of got at the moment. He works with a sporting organisation. He talks about doing your life's best work, and you reflect on that, man. I was like, while that period in the regiment was really cool, and I was exposed to some some incredible human beings, both Australian and abroad. While you think you're doing your life's best work there, I'm like, man, I just want to take the experiences I've had here, and I want to take the principles that I've been exposed to, and I want to take them forward with me, man. I want to sort of do my life's best work. I don't want to think that my best work is behind me.
Done.
Yeah. I don't want to become stagnant or static. So, and what does that look like to your kids, right? We were talking about this before offline, about trying to model that standard and taking that mindset, man. And so yeah, I've probably just turned a short answer long there, but I left the regiment on my own terms, happy, not knowing what I was going to do, but fulfilled.
Yeah.
Also,
but 15 years in a spot though too.
Yeah,
like that's a commitment, dedication, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, in an elite sporting sense, man, that's a pretty substantial career.
Well,
right?
and what you're putting your body through,
with
all the physical,
had a few hard impacts with the ground on parachuting, and I suppose, man, like that transition piece, I don't like calling it transition piece now. I think transition seems very linear, like it's like I go from this thing and I pivot towards something on the same level. Whereas, and I've heard this term, it's my transformation period. And I don't want to get too woo-woo or whatever, but I think that's cool, man, because from a terminology perspective, it means like incrementally improving. Yeah. So, yeah, adopting that mindset. But initially I didn't, man. Like I bought into this narrative that, I'm a veteran, I've got to be broken, I've got to be fucking sad about something, I've got to complain about injuries, blah, 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 blah. And then it was like, I think the process on the way out was very much like, you're going to lose your identity, you're going to lose your sense of purpose, you're going to be away from the team, it's going to be hard. Like, man, so you buy into that narrative. Yeah. Then you get out, you're like, I don't have to be sad. I don't have to complain about shit. I don't have to think that that's done now. Like, yeah. So I suppose that took a while to change. We spoke about, I think we spoke about this when we first met, man. The book called The Art of Winning by Dan Carter, ex-All Blacks captain. He wrote a book, and if you listen to Dan, cheers. Got to be stoked if he's listening to this. Eh? So the first part of his book is called Repurposing. Yeah. And man, I only read this like 4 or 5 months ago, and I was like, I wish I had that when I was making that transition process. So, but yeah, man, like, and I'll talk to some guys now, and there's a couple of guys reaching out, that I used to work with, and happy to mentor them in that space. I'm actually going across to the East Coast tomorrow to speak to a group of people who are leaving Special Operations Command, going through that transformation process now. And my presentation is called Repurposing. My point being that it's a single word, right, for it, but what it means taking that, not losing a sense of purpose, you're taking your experiences and you're pivoting towards a and knew what's important next, and you're just giving them new meaning. And the chapter that he wrote on that was awesome.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what the first sentence was, but it was pretty much about, like you spend your whole adult life working towards achieving a goal, i.e. captaining the All Blacks, and then all of a sudden you leave that. It's like, who are you? And the identity piece was hard, man. Like, it's funny because when you're in the regiment, you can't tell people you're in the regiment. So you tell people, I was telling them I'm a plumber. Like I was in my cupboard. When my wife and I met, I told them my wife thought I was a plumber. I told her I was a plumber. And I used my brother's name as well. Yeah, man. So I think the identity piece was like, it was rough, man. Like, yeah, cool. You hang your hat on the fact. I hung my hat on the fact I was an SAS dude. I was an SAS patrol commander. But it didn't have to be that. No. Like you can still take parts of that and bring it forward with you. To what's important next.
Yeah. So that win-win. I like that. I really do like that. And mate, the thing that's clear with that whole, what you're saying about the regiment as well is just around, there's not any gatekeepers of knowledge. Like people, experienced people are wanting to pass on stuff all the time. Yeah. Like how, that's amazing, like.
For a large percentage.
Yeah.
I'd say like any organisation, man, there's probably people that can't navigate that well. And there were gatekeepers for particular capabilities or thinking, like they have to do this because this is the way I was taught it and this is my way. But that was from when I was there. I mean, I can put hand on heart and say that I saw a shift. Like there was a significant shift in how many people were buying into the new way of approaching that and not being gatekeepers and turning their tacit knowledge into lessons for people. So
it's really positive. And that transformation stuff, mate, is like, it's so relevant and it's such an important thing. And it's, whether it is, someone changing a career, whether it is a sportsman, finishing, their career and then having to get, let's say, in the real world type thing. But mothers going back to work after having kids, that is brutal.
Yeah, man.
Having a wife that's gone through that and a sister that's gone through that, like that, some of the stuff that they get subjected to in that piece of, like you've just had, this life-changing event with your kids, you feel guilty with, going back to work, you feel guilty that you're not providing, like there's so much people retiring, there's so many different things, breakups in relationships or whatever it is.
Not well, man. I think, and so I said my wife before, she's a first responder. She's a firefighter. And when she went through the IVF process, there was no policy or anything to support that.
Yeah.
I suppose, and females were still relatively new to the role at that time, but it was like, so she had the opportunity to help shape that. So her return was, she had a good return, man. Like her team was really welcoming and whatnot. So I know that she had a positive experience in that, and it was sequenced as well. But you're right, mate. Like it would be hard, and I tip my hat, like the females that do that, man, go back, because that's such a massive life-changing event for them, Like,
well, your body's just gone through so much, mentally you've gone through so much, psychologically, you're getting to that point of life where there's some imbalances going on with perimenopause and everything's come into it a bit later on. But, it's just tough, and like people get through that sort of stuff. But, I was talking to an older fella who's sort of semi-retired, and how he's struggling with the same thing. It's like, well, what the hell do I do now? So it's I like that transformation.
I also bumped into a randomly man. He's an ex, and I won't name drop, but he's an ex-professional cricketer, played for Australia.
Yeah.
At one point in his career, probably for a couple of years, he's probably the best cricketer in the world. I'll try and link you up, man. Spins a good yarn. But we sort of broke down, over this whole leaving an elite team, repurposing process, and like looking forward to what are we doing now. And he's gone into like a bit of a consulting, public speaking function, particularly around mental health and the struggles that he had, like in the team and leaving the team and public perception. And I didn't have that, man. Like I wasn't subject to the public opinion of me.
Yeah,
I was somewhat, and the media played a bit of a negative part in that in the back end of my career. But it was cool to sort of speak to him, and we really broke down, man, over that. Like it was good to speak about the commonalities that exist between leaving that elite team, like it does, and especially in a sporting context, man. Like you think about what's the average age of someone that makes their first draft, like come off like early 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah, well, even earlier, right? Like straight out of school. Or,
So say for example, you go through a pathway. You go through a school of excellence for rugby league, and then you make it into whatever division. You make the big leagues, you make the NRL, you make the AFL, whatever it is, and then you have a career that's what will be average 10 years?
Well,
I'd say probably less.
A lot less, but let's say 10 years.
That's right.
Let's say you get to your late 20s, 30s, and you can't do it anymore.
That's right, late 20s, early 30s, and you're like, man, that was my identity. Like the time I was in mid high school, this has been my goal, and now it's like, you're learning to be an adult again, you know,
Yeah.
or you had to for the first time, because you're like, that was my identity, that was my job, what am I doing now? It's unfortunate, man, to see how many people sort of fall off that bandwagon and, you know, they don't do that transformation period well or repurpose well. So it's there's so much common ground, man, between sporting teams and law enforcement, fireys, ambos, military that do that.
Yeah, human beings just going through things, right? And human beings, like you said, that are goal orientated, that want to keep moving forward, like, because you're taking a massive step, 20 steps backwards, because I used to be at this level and now I'm not that anymore. I've got to start fresh again and go again and build something. What do I do? You know?
And I think, and it was a term yesterday, one of the crews I was working with, he took one of the guys who was in the team that I was working with was talking about his bias for action. And I was like, man, that sums up us perfectly, right? Like, you get out of that and you have a bias for action. You're like, I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something. And I think that's where that can be an enabler. 100% it should be an enabler. That should be harnessed. But then it can also be at the detriment of people that don't do that well. Be like, I need to be doing something. I need to be doing something. And if they're not, then they just they break down.
Yeah. And the balance, that's hard. Like, I find that 100%, you know, you juggle things. So you started up OMADA Performance Concepts, mate. Like, was that, working, with hearing your story over the last sort of bit of, hour and a bit here, like, it makes a heap of sense why you've done this, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can sort of see, the importance training and supporting teams and your involvement in teams and how important that is, and seeing the worst consequences possible on things and how they can go wrong. So was it a simple thing to make it to sort of get into, or is it just you fell into it?
And I finished studying. I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I decided to renovate the bathroom or the ensuite. And then my wife came home from work and I told her I'd actually started calling around plumbers and seeing if they're putting on mature age apprentices, because I wanted to go back and finish my plumbing apprenticeship off. My wife's like, isn't your back and your neck and your knees? I'm like, that's true. Yeah. And then
you'd have some good stories at Smoko though. The boys that love them.
And then so my wife's a firefighter. I'm around her crew, right? They're a good crew. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a fiery. So then I started Googling intakes for fireys. My wife's like, no, that's a stupid idea too. All right. And then again, randomly, man, at the cafe that I'm at the cricketer at, another guy who I know, he's works in he's a winch medic crewman on a helo. Yeah. And he was talking about some tactical medical training that he was running. Asked if I wanted to sort of jump on board with that. I was like, yeah. So I started going down that path, and that was my first sort of exposure to training delivery and outside of the regiment. And so I went out to one of the mine sites to deliver a medical training package to some mines response teams or emergency response teams. And it was cool. Like, I didn't set my bar too high. I didn't really know what to expect. But for the most part, like, it was, and they just had an incident on site like the week prior, so everything was so contextual to them. Yeah, man. And it was cool. Like, it was eye-opening to see that, that some of my experiences from a medical perspective could be translated into a different scenario. Gave them new meaning as well. So from a closure perspective, that was really cool. But also from a an educational perspective, I was like, sick, maybe there's something I can do here. So at the end, man, I was like, well, what, I sort of wanted to think about, what do I enjoy doing? I enjoy doing that training delivery piece, enabling teams, developing leaders. And I wanted to sort of provide or contribute meaningfully as well. That was the big thing, I put obviously service is being of service to people is significant to me, right? So I had a career of service up until this point. I want to continue that to some capacity, because I've got a son now, and sort of set those conditions and show him and model that sort of piece as well. I was like, what can I do? And then I was like, what am I good at? Or what do I enjoy doing? How can I still complement my daycare dad lifestyle? And give back to that broader sort of tactical rescue response community. And that's where I sort of started initially, branched out into sports now a little bit as well, not too much, but just sort of started to. And that was around that fundamentals of high-performing teams, what it means to be in a high-performing team, from my experience. Leading high-performing teams, instructor development, how to sort of grow that culture early on before people go into a team in these organisations. And then dynamic decision-making as well. That was a big thing too. A lot of people sort of requested that piece. So, man, at a fundamental and team leading level, like we go into developing culture, driving culture, what it looks like if it's drifting, how to fix that. But yeah, man, I founded OMADA Performance Concepts based off that model. OMADA Performance Concepts, OMADA being Greek noun, which means a group or team of people with a collective goal or purpose, which is summarise what I was trying to do.
You bet. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool, man. And the why around that too, like I get to give back to that broader community, enable their preparedness, and ultimately, try and preserve life, because that's what they do. That's what they're in the business of. And then, yeah, man, some other fortunate opportunities presented as well through like the uni. I studied through University of New South Wales. They sponsor a sporting team that we're running a package around leading for high performance. Did that. That was cool. Gave me an exposure to like the sporting world. A Perth-based fighter who's like a current UFC world champion. His strength and conditioning coach reached out to see if I could help him run a package. It was really wicked, man. Like all these random opportunities he's presenting.
Yeah, fantastic.
But yeah, man. So basically, OMADA, I now work with predominantly tactical rescue response teams around, developing those performance fundamentals in the team, what that looks like, enabling the leadership progression as well. Working with some similar organisations around that. In that, non-accredited training because especially some of these organisations, man, like they want to give their leaders accredited training, and I'll call it out, man, like it's cookie cutter. We consult in it, man. We know it.
Well,
right?
yeah, I've done some myself, mate,
Yeah,
and
100%.
Purposely, don't want anything to do
That's
with
right.
it. Yeah,
For the sake of getting a course code and a certificate at the end of it, I think organisations can do better for their emerging leaders.
Yeah.
So that's where I sort of wanted to fill that gap, man. And I suppose another thing that drove me towards found OMADA as well was when I was in that training space, I alluded to the fact that we had observers come from other tactical units within Australia, and they saw how we were sort of taking that principle-based approach to developing leaders and teams. And they were like, man, we don't have that in our organisation. Like that's a gap that exists at the moment, which they're currently filling quite well. I have to say. And I was like, well, cool, man. Like I want to package it up. I don't want to teach tactics. I just want to teach the principles. I want to mess to be in a high-performing team, design culture, develop decision makers, and debriefing culture. All these sorts of things that I was taking for granted. I was like, man, I'm going to package it up and deliver it to the broader community. So probably much like yourself, mate. You're just thinking about you're giving your experiences new meaning as well. So, yeah.
Well, and finding something that you enjoy, right?
That's
like you said, it's like, oh shit, what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Oh, mate, you think it's something? Yeah, that's right, mate. It's got to be something you enjoy.
Yeah. Well, what can I enjoy? Where can I add some? Where can it get me some purpose, and where can I add some value, and see where it goes?
That's right, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny though, man. Like I standing in front of corporates, that's probably the most nervous I've ever been in my life, mate. Like I did this gig recently with my wife came and watched, and I spoke. Done a couple of packages now in a corporate sense, mate, and I am uncomfortable, and I'll admit it. I did this package with a tactical crew recently, and with another sort of rescue crew, and I'm comfortable in that space.
They're your
man.
people.
They speak the language. I can swear a bit.
Yeah.
You go in a corporate sense, it's like, you're watching your P's and Q's. Sometimes you might wearing like a jacket and a tie and stuff. Yeah. At a lectern with a microphone. I feel like I'm shackled to this thing.
You look good.
It's unnatural, man. So, but it's wicked, man. And we talk about this too, from a consulting perspective too, you maintain, it's your product. You design it, it's your IP. Yeah. You get to deliver it the way you want to do it. And at the end of the day, man, like if I can enable like one team to maintain their preparedness and preserve life, that's wicked.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just like those concepts that have made such a big impact in your life, right? And your progression, through the military, and just like, why wouldn't you pass that stuff on,
right,
and do it? And if it adds some purpose to you, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
Running a business, how you found that?
Oh, mate. Well, I studied it, right? I thought I'd be sweet at it. I wish I paid more attention, but especially with accounting and law and so yeah, man. So I did my master's in business, right? So there's things in there like I sort of paid off because coming from such a large government organisation, a high performing one too, man. I was privy to organisational behaviour, change management, strategic management, all these sorts of things you do in a master's of business. But then there was things like accounting, business law. Oh man, like entrepreneurship. I was like, I'm never going to start my own business. And then I've started my own business, and I'm going back to my books like income statements and balance sheets and
Well, it's not why you start, right?
No,
that's the thing. You got a passion for passing on some stuff that's been helpful to you, right? Which is awesome. But accounting, marketing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That
chasing work.
Yeah,
selling yourself.
Oh man, I think we talk about this, right?
There's comfort zone stuff
man.
there.
And I've had to seek mentors in this, mate, because one of the biggest struggles was understanding value on my own experiences. I'm talking financial value as well.
Yeah.
So when someone says like, what's your day rate? What do you charge? Oh man, it's hard, eh? You almost let humility get in the way of that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, like you turn in $1. You got to make a living.
Yeah.
So Yeah, man, I was lucky. I reached out. I sought mentors in that space, guys that had either left the regiment and done similar stuff, or people from outside that completely. I spoke before about a mentor I've got within a sporting organisation. He had I've only had a couple of sit downs with this guy, but man, the knowledge that exists in his head and his willingness to share that with me has been cool. And he sort of talked about like cut out unnecessary overheads, being like you do your own accounting, do your own books for that until you understand the process, do your own marketing, understand where you want to market. But at the end of the day, like understand the financial value, and and I would ask people like, how much should I be charging for these things? And they're like, oh yeah, here's how you structure it. So that was a big learning point. It's sort of like I never read a resume before, so then you go and do things like LinkedIn and write your own bio, and you're like you're trying to like it's just cringy sort of stuff, man. You feel you feel awkward doing it, but man, I think understanding the value of your experiences, being able to put it into financial value, understanding that people are wanting to pay for your product anyway. From a product development perspective, like I've talked about it, offer up full packages, trying to get product down without sort of committing a slide crime in presentations, and being able to just structure my packages that I can pull them off the shelf, add an 80% solution, throw the other 20% of product into it depending on the client, and make it, contextual and relevant. So that's sort of when I went hard early on that to get that. I felt like I bit off more than I could chew. The old saying like, if you're going to bite off more than you can chew, be ready to chew like. So, and I was chewing like fuck. Yeah. So man, went hard early, which was cool. In a position to roll some packages out early to some mines rescue teams. That was very much proof of concept, and I've got some good mates to thank for that sort of foot in. I think we've got a mutual connection, man. Jake Sterling.
Yeah, well, we've got to call him out because he essentially, brokered this. He got us together, a mutual person. Yeah.
So he reached out via LinkedIn, asked us if I wanted to sort of help out with some training in the fundamental space for the company that he works for. Yeah. He's a trainer for mines and emergency rescue crew. Professional dude, man. Funny dude as well. Yeah.
Well, I knew him as a kid, like 16 and 17-year-old. So to hear that he's professional, mate, I don't know. He was a joker. He was always funny. But I'm joking.
Good trainer, He's got like good leadership minerals, he's got the minerals there that are going to make him a good leader, and he is. So man, he linked us up with that sort of gig, and that's progressing now. So it's sort of gone from that initial break-in, sort of looking at that deeper work function with him now, which is cool. And I've got him to thank for that, and another guy as well. Who's a fiery, but well,
it's one thing you cool, I just like discounted like that whole response team thing on mine sites. Is that okay? Well, we're blessed here. Firefighters can come, police can come, whatever. Ambos can come. Well, up on a mine site, it's a little bit different, right? They've got to have their own teams. So when I suppose certainly fits with what you've done previously, and the concepts and
that's right, man.
Improving teams, so they can be better at what they're supposed to be doing.
That's right. And tactics are different. They're the way you fight a fire, the way you coordinate that road crash rescue or that vertical rescue, whatever it's going to be. You're still working as a team with a leader who has other strengths-based leaders within a team. They're still making dynamic decisions. They're still making those decisions in the face of threat to their life and their teammates' lives and property. So at a fundamental level, man, it's all the same.
It is
still it's the same stuff, same shit, different uniform. That's what I say. So
yeah. No, that's awesome, mate. It's really good. I'm super grateful for you giving up some time and sharing some stuff. It's been good fun getting to know it, mate, and really awesome to hear just about your experience in that elite force and just what it's all about. You get all these different stigmas and misconceptions about it, but to hear some of those, from a leadership point of view, some of those things with the people on the ground and how that looks and how that works, that's awesome.
I appreciate the opportunity to come on here today, man. It's cool. I think and it's cool to come on the podcast with someone. We're swimming in a similar lane, man. I think it's been cool to meet you and understand that how we're doing that similar performance consulting piece, and the opportunity to come on here today, man, and speak to your audience. I appreciate that. So thanks for having me,
mate. No, my pleasure.
I'm going to go home and redo the man cave. This is elite.
No, thank you, mate.
Cheers for having me, man.
Nah, my pleasure.